Hello there, everyone. This is Jacqueline Jax, and welcome back to my channel. I was recently on my group page, actually this morning, talking with one of my students, and the comment was interesting because it's an approach I hadn't really thought of, and I'm so glad that she brought it up. So what has been going on is I think some of you have been buying the professional level brushes that I've been recommending, which is amazing. So the conversation was mostly about the Escoda Ultimo, but there's also the Versatile, the large Versatile. There's the Barocco size 16 that you guys have been looking at, the 1-inch Escoda Prado flat brush. I mean, like all of these bigger brushes that you've been upscaling to while the brush sales and stuff have been going on over on Jackson's. And that is amazing. But one thing we didn't consider is the application of these brushes, because many beginners will start with something that just came in a kit. Maybe that looks more like this brush, this is a Da Vinci Nova Synthetic, or a snap brush. That if you go with Princeton, there's some like lower level brushes, right? That aren't really made for watercolor in general. And when I say that, I pretty much mean that they are meant for more detail rather than washes, right? And traditionally, watercolor is a lot of washes on paper. So if these are some of the washes that I've been working on for the upcoming 15-day painting challenge on Skillshare. So if you like those, definitely want to sign up for that coming out in October. But in any case, a traditional starter brush kind of looks like this, right? Where you have this ability to doesn't have a big belly. It just gives you the ability to kind of do a lot of detail, and you can use the side of it to get some larger washes, but not really huge, right? But it's mostly a detail brush. So if this is what you started with, this is great for detail. It's great for gouache. It's great for, those finer details, right? Similar to this. This is the Escoda Perla Barcelona size 8. And also these will be smaller brushes like 2s, 4s, 6, 8s. Anything under 10. This is a Versatile. The Versatile is great by Escoda because it's got a little bit of a bigger belly. So if you did want to do more of a wash, you could put a lot of water in it, grab some paint, and you would be able to do larger washes for a little bit longer time, right? But still not nearly to cover a big sheet of paper like this. So we're talking about sketchbook versus professional level painting. So when you're moving up your brushes, just keep in mind that there are different brushes for different things. And if you're trying to compare maybe your starter kit brush, which was probably just either a very inexpensive brush that you got with like an inexpensive watercolor set, or something that was handed down to you that you're not really sure what it is, or you purchased a snap brush or a Princeton brush that's maybe just a beginner level brush, or something for detail and you've been using it for everything else. That could be your problem with your washes and struggles. Now, another question in that was the floppiness of some of the brushes. There is squirrel hair brushes, which are not meant to snap back because they are just really meant to hold a ton of water. So in other words, if I wanted to do a wash with a smaller brush, I would choose a squirrel or a synthetic squirrel, because can you see how much more water this one can deliver? And a lot, it holds a lot of color and a lot of water. A similar style to that, and something that holds its shape a bit more than the squirrel, is a synthetic squirrel. So the synthetic squirrel has a large belly like the squirrel, and it delivers the same amount of paint, but in some cases even more, right? Now the difference between what I just showed you was the 6 and the 8. So you can imagine if my squirrel brush was an 8, it would have done the same job as the synthetic squirrel. So they're very, very close. The difference though that I notice is that the synthetic squirrel has a bit more snap to it, where These ones you can pretty much just tip them over, right? So traditional artists will typically use the regular squirrel, and newer artists will go with the synthetics. The synthetics are a little bit cheaper, and of course they're vegan, right? So you're not killing off any squirrels to get them. So that's a personal choice, but they work very, very similarly, no matter what size. This is the 6 and the 8. My question from my student was about the larger sizes. So I brought out the larger sizes so that we could get an experience for a very, very large Ultimo. Now, the Ultimo is like a synthetic squirrel. It's very, very close. So it doesn't snap back as much, but it's not meant to. It's not, as you can tell, the point is there, but not nearly like a small brush. So it's not really meant for detail. However, if you're using a very, very large sheet of paper and you want a very even wash, you just have to fill the brush with water, gather the paint, which it will hold a ton of water and a ton of paint. And now you literally can cover a very, very large area and just keep going. And you have the most even wash on your first pass. That's mainly what this is for. If you wanted to use it for a little detail, when it's wet, it does have some of a point. And you see a lot of the master watercolor artists using the same brush. And the reason why is they are working on a very big sheet of paper. So if they wanted to do some scribbly details or, some etchings and styles like this, they're free to do that because the brush can handle it. But again, if you're using a very small sheet of paper, then it's going to overwhelm that paper and that brush, right? So this is the beautiful, ability it has to etch, and give you those gorgeous, loose watercolor details that is traditional for watercolor. This is where it's really at, is in the tradition of the watercolor, not really in doing, fine details. That's not really what these brushes are meant to do, but you can see that in larger scale, they work great. And this is how they're traditionally used. And it just can go on forever. It mixes colors really well. It blends. It gives you just such an even wash. Look at that beautiful even wash. So that's what the Ultimo, the Versatile, anything with a very, very big belly, whether it has snap or not, it's going to be for a larger sheet of paper or to deliver a very even wash. It also allows you to put a lot of color into the brush and keep going where you don't have to reload. Because as you know, if you reload, then you might or might not have the right weight or strength of color that you need to finish an even wash. So it's kind of very convenient to have it be available in one go. And that's what I use the 14s, the 16s, and the 18s for. So I think that right there answers that question. Another thing is like the middle of the road ones. So if you have size 12s, here are 3 examples, actually 4 examples of a size 12. So this is just above like the lower sizes, right? Like a 8 or a 10 is good for anything from sketchbooks, etc. But then when you get to a 12, it can kind of overwhelm a small piece of paper. So if you're using a size 12, then whether it be the Escoda Versatile, the Escoda Prado, the Escoda Prado by David Taylor, which is a little bit of a wider brush. It's a little different synthetic. You can see how different the Alvaro Casnet, he's a little tighter painter with a little more detail, and the David Taylor ones are a little more washy. Then the Escoda 12 Perla by Joseph Zbubik is made of that, I think it's Touré. So it's a very fine, tight brush that has a lot of snap to it. So depending on the brush, you want to look for snap depending on how much detail you're going to get. The Versatile is the most popular brush because it's middle of the road, and it comes in a lot of different sizes and styles and abilities, right? So the smaller Versatiles will be really, really small, and they'll have still the wider bellies, kind of like the Ultimo. The Ultimo would be like the next up, in my opinion, from that. The next down would be the Barocco, because the Barocco holds less water, has a little more snap, and you can see it's like a tighter shape. So you can do a little more detail with this one. And this one, I think, only comes in the green set. So this is the green Escoda set that comes with an Ultimo size 4, a Barocco size 16, which you can use in a sketchbook, and a size 12 Prado. This set, I think the sizes seem a little deceiving because when you think of a size 16, you think of something a lot more thicker than this. But in actuality, this holds a decent amount of water. It's great for travel, sketchbooks, and it's just an overall great set to use, especially for beginners. And that's why I recommended it. Getting back to the Versatile, if you were going to use a size 12 Versatile, what you're going to get is a pretty nice wash ability. It doesn't hold as much water as the Ultimo, so you do have to load it. So if I were going to try and do this wash, you can see it will handle a smaller sheet of paper. It will not go across a large sheet of paper before it starts to run out of juice. But with that being said, the reason why a lot of artists love the Versatile is because it is versatile. So it can do a wash, and then it's got a little bit of a point, but a big belly to hold water. And when it has a big belly to hold water, what happens is you're able to do a lot of detail work for a longer period of time. So it tends to be, these Versatiles tend to be really, really favorited in watercolor artists, especially even, beginners, intermediates, and advanced, because of the way that it just has this ability to, to deliver a ton of color, but still you can lightly brush it even at the size 12 and you're still going to get a point. Now, remember, this point is not going to apply for a tiny, tiny piece of paper. So if I were going to try and get the details at this size, it's much different than getting the details at this size, right? This size maybe is what you were working on in your sketchbooks or as a beginner, so you used very small brushes, and that's where those cheaper brushes probably performed well. But then when you moved up to like a 9x12 piece of paper or anything larger, then all of a sudden it overwhelmed the brush, and you started moving up to professional brushes and probably were like, wait, this doesn't feel or act like my old brushes, so my techniques need to change. Yeah, they do a little bit. And at some point, I think they do for all of us, Something with a little more snap would be like this one, the Prado size 12. So a little more snap than the Versatile. Still has a nice belly, though. I like this one. This is the Alvaro Casnet. I don't think you can get this brush outside of a set. It comes with 3, but I do love it because it will not only handle really, really nice washes, but it'll give me some really nice dry brush effects. And I can still do a lot with the points. And, that's really, really handy in a brush. It comes with 3 brushes just like this, 3 different sizes. So this I love, and it's got a really long handle, so you can literally hold it all the way back here and really kind of, get yourself some loose style going on with it. Dry brush effects, add a little water, and do some loose washes in some smaller areas, and it's really, really fun to use. The next down from that, as far as not down in quality, but down in level of water, I would say, is this one. And this is the Perla. So you see them, they have like white synthetic fibers. They're very, very tightly driven. They have a point. They're great for painters who want a lot more detail and to get into like those little tight spaces, right? So if you were going to do like maybe some relief work outside of shapes and wanted to fill in, but also have a level of detail and the ability to wash, if you have a larger size in this brush, it will hold enough water to do a wash, but you will have to keep loading it with water. As you can see, I'm just going over as a glaze here, and I have to keep dipping it into my water in order for it not to turn into like a dry brush. So I can show you with this pink, if I load it with water, how much we actually get. Let's go down here. So it stays pretty wet, pretty long, but there, it starts to run out of water quick. However, the point is tremendously good, and you can do everything from, you know, nice little dry brush sketchy effects with it. You know, like if you want to draw a, can you see this? I want to make sure I'm in focus here. If you want to draw a flower, then easily you've got the ability to do the fine details in the center. Then you can be as artistic as you want with your flower, and add a little water and you literally can wash in some color. Now, can you do this with the other brushes? Yeah, sure. Let me show you. Rinse this out. So going to the Avaro Casnet, I'm going to do the same thing. Let me show you. We'll just holds more water, as you can see, so it delivers a lot more. And I'm just going to quickly sketch a flower. Add a little water, and you can see how it delivers water much, much differently. But again, beautiful. So each brush has its own unique style and ability depending on the artist. So I encourage you to try them and embrace them for what they are, you know, just adjust to them. This one does great, like mixing of colors. I love how it offers enough to be able to bleed those colors in. Let me show you these a little bit closer. Isn't that beautiful? So pretty. So let me do one more using the really large wash brush so you can see the comparison. So I added some water, getting some color on my brush here. So you can see how much color it actually holds. We're going to have to go gingerly, but it does have the ability of this point, and this is why a lot of master watercolor artists will use this. And you can see it's a lot bolder. However, it can do a lot of really, really cool professional effects. And, you know, this might just be exactly what you're looking for, but it's for larger, you know, it's for larger scale. It really is. But like, you know, you can just, because it's got so much water, I can literally just keep picking up paint and adding layers of colors. You know what I mean? And I still haven't, I've loaded it with different paint colors, but I have not needed to put more water in my brush, meaning that I can keep painting and adding colors. Isn't that incredible? Without having to put more water in the brush. So it is quite the beautiful brush. And that's why I recommend it, of course, because it's lovely, you know, but you do have to work on a much larger scale. So you can see the difference in these brushes and things that they do. This one was the Avaro Casnet, which I happen to love the ability to do the washes. This one, less water, more detail. This one just really does everything, but it is a floppier brush. However, on big scale, you can get some gorgeous loose painting effects with it, and you never have to really load the water back into the brush. As far as flat brushes, I've recommended so far two mainly, as well as a mottler brush. Mottler brushes are great. These are just, they hold a decent amount of water, you know, not as much as goat hair to wet your page, but great for smaller work. These ones are more for details and washes. Like for instance, let me see if I can get some more room on my paper. The Neptune flat brush. This is a wash brush, and it does a great job with washes. It holds a decent amount of water. Princeton is, you know, tried and true, a great company. I don't happen to think it's as good a quality as the, you know, Escoda. But again, I have all of their brushes. I love the Neptunes. I have every single one they have, and I use them very, very often in different sizes. So this one, I personally have, like, I think every size in it with the glass, the sea glass handle. And it comes everywhere from this really small 1/4 inch, 1/2 inches. This one is a 3/4 inch. I even have a 1 inch. So you can do really nice washes with it. It holds a lot of water. It's synthetic. And then, but my all-time favorite as far as flat brushes go is the 1-inch Escoda Prado. This only comes in a set by Fabio Cabrinelli. The reason why I like this isn't really for washes. It's because I can paint really amazing loose shapes with it, and also structured shapes. So if I were going to build a city scene, then literally it will allow me to establish a really nice horizon line, but then also I can build shapes with it very, very easily. And I get kind of a really nice loose dry brush effect. It holds a decent amount of water, and as you can see, I can really go to town with it. And if I want to wet it, I can actually get different lighter effects through it too. So this one I just love to have, and I have it in 2 different sizes for this reason, because I'm able to really, with just one brush, build out an entire cityscape, which I have done many, many times in my sketchbooks. And I should probably get you that sample so you can see what I've used it for. So just recently, I actually did these with that brush. I used the flat brush to just establish these areas, and I actually also did the washes in the back. This was interesting. This wash, as cool as it is, it actually was a mistake that I did an accident on. Like, I was doing a watercolor wash of multiple colors, and I just made a huge mistake and I couldn't save it. So what I ended up doing is I just went over with water and just kept washing it. Just got some water on this. And just kept washing it until I blended all the colors together in a neat way, let it dry, and then I built my city on top of it. And that was, you know, it turned out to be a great background, actually, unplanned. So if ever you have a watercolor that went completely wrong, just take a really nice wash brush and start adding water and blending it together and see what you get. You might actually get a background that you absolutely love, like this one. And I would totally do that again, actually, just throw a bunch of colors on there and just wash it around. I was actually able to remove color too with this brush, which it's great at. And of course, build in a lot of detail, you know, in a nice structured kind of way. And that's what I use my flat brushes for. A lot of artists, you know, they'll still use this and go really quickly down to do the lines, but I find that I'm not great at that. So using a flat brush just way delivers this so much better. And another thing you can also use for something like this is just a plastic card, you know, and literally you have to work with it, load it with paint, and really kind of go at it. And of course, it doesn't do washes or, you know, allow you to build color. It does things a lot differently, but it's a very similar effect or something you could use in addition to the flat brush. Okay, so I covered some basics. Now it's up to you guys to ask me more questions, and I will come back, of course, with more brush results and comparisons. So we went through quite a bit today, and I feel like I gave you a nice lesson in brushes and how to use them in a very quick way, hopefully quick enough. So let me know what kind of brush you're using and any problems that you're having with it, and maybe we can solve them just by giving you a little insight into brushes and all that they do. Have a great one, guys, and thanks for subscribing to my channel.